Welcome back to the deep dive, everyone. Ready to get our science hats on.
Always ready to geek out a bit.
Today, we're really zeroing in on those classroom conversations, specifically in science classes, and how those actually work.
Yeah, and it's not just about listening in. Think of it like we're getting those X-ray glasses, seeing the skeleton, the structure of how those conversations actually play out.
It's like sheet music, but for teaching. Which
what?
I love that. And don't worry, this isn't about judging teachers or anything like that.
Right.
It's about understanding the tools of the trade.
Exactly.
And we're going deep on a study that does just that. It maps out these kind of hidden structures of classroom talk. And believe me, you're going to have some aha moments as we go through this.
Yeah, some real eye-openers. You might even recognize some of these from your own days back in school.
Oh, absolutely. Taking us back to those desks.
Right.
So to kick things off, the big idea here is something called communicative approaches, or,
CAs.
CAs, there we go.
Yeah.
I should have known we'd go with the acronym.
Gotta love a good acronym, right?
Exactly. But what does it actually mean? Break it down for us.
Yeah, so basically it's a fancy way of saying, like, the different ways teachers guide those classroom discussions.
Okay, makes sense.
We all remember that classic back and forth. Teacher asks a question, student answers, teacher says, yep, you got it, or not quite.
Yeah, the is this thing on of teaching. Right?
Exactly. And researchers, they actually have a name for that. They call it the IRE pattern, IRE. Initiate, respond, evaluate.
Okay, I see. So it has its place, obviously, but this study, it digs into whether there are, maybe more dynamic ways to really get those light bulbs flashing for students.
Totally. And that's what we're here to unpack.
Exactly. So hit us with it. What are those alternatives? What are we even talking about here?
Okay, so this research, it really focuses on 4 main approaches, and they kind of fall along two main lines.
Okay.
One is how much input, how much say the students have in the conversation.
Okay, so student-driven versus teacher-driven kind of.
Yeah, you got it. And the other is like how much the teacher is controlling the information flow, right?
Yeah.
So are they like steering everyone towards one correct answer? Or is it more, open-ended, where lots of different viewpoints and ideas are welcome?
Got it. So it's like a spectrum, right? From listen up, this is the answer, to let's all hash this out together.
Exactly. You nailed it. And then layered on top of that, you have how much back and forth is happening. Like, are we talking about teachers who primarily lecture?
Right.
Or those who are really trying to have this conversational ping pong match with their students?
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So how do you even begin to study that? Are they just like sitting in the back of the classroom taking notes?
So they did observe classrooms, of course, but they took it a step further. They created these like visual maps of the conversations over time.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. They call them communication graphs. And it's basically like, imagine a timeline of the class, right?
Yeah, I'm picturing it.
And on that timeline, they're marking down which CA, which communicative approach the teacher is using at any given moment.
So we could literally see like the flow of the conversation, almost like peaks and valleys.
Exactly. And that's where it gets really interesting. So the study, it focuses on 2 experienced physics teachers. We've got teacher A and teacher B, both teaching the same material, same level, but their communication styles totally different.
Right. Now you've got me really curious.
Okay.
What do these conversational maps reveal about our 2 teachers?
Well, teacher A's communication graph, it's got this very distinctive up and down pattern, like a series of hills, and those quick questions and answers, those IRE moments, those form the peaks of the hills.
Right.
And then you have these longer stretches of lecturing kind of filling in the valleys in between.
So more direct instruction, making sure everyone's got those key facts down.
Exactly. Now, teacher B, their graph, totally different. It's more like a staircase steadily climbing upward. Researchers call this the cumulative communication structure.
Okay, cumulative communication.
Or CCS.
CCS.
I like it.
So what's making these stairs climb? What makes it cumulative? Tell me more.
So it all comes down to how teacher B builds on what the students are bringing to the table, right? And it's like this 2-phase process. They call it opening up and then closing down.
Interesting.
So it starts with a lot of open dialogue, right? Students are sharing their initial thoughts, their questions, even their misconceptions, which is totally okay at this stage.
Creating that safe space to actually explore the ideas.
100%. And then as the lesson goes on, teacher B, they shift gears a little bit, right? There's more direct instruction happening, more explaining the concepts. But, and this is key, they're constantly looping back to those initial student contributions.
I see. So it's not just like, here's the answer, moving on. It's more like, remember when you were wondering about X? Well, this is how it connects.
You got it. That's the beauty of the cumulativeness of it all, right? It's like weaving those early ideas into a more complete understanding,
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, I am dying to see this in action, though. Like, give me a real life classroom scenario. How does this actually play out?
All right, let's do it. Let's drop into teacher A's classroom first.
Yeah.
So the study, it focuses on this one moment where they're transitioning from talking about electrical power to talking about electrical energy.
Okay.
Seems like a perfect time to bridge the gap between, textbook definitions and real world applications, right?
Absolutely. Make me care about watts and joules. You know? What's the point of all this?
Right, exactly. So the transcript, it shows a student trying to do just that. They start telling this story about, unfortunately, burning a microwave.
Okay, I've never burned a microwave, but I have definitely shortened the lifespan of some popcorn. So
right.
Relatable.
Totally. But teacher A, they kind of steer the student back to the definition of electrical energy pretty quickly.
Interesting.
Like they start asking about the wattage of different microwaves, making comparisons.
So very much sticking to that IRE pattern we talked about.
Exactly. Like, sticking to that mountain path instead of venturing out into the open fields of conversation,
I love that visual. So what you're saying is that focusing on definitions isn't bad necessarily, but this example kind of shows how sometimes sticking to just that one approach, it might limit exploration a little bit.
Yeah, you got it. It's like the difference between memorizing a map and actually exploring a city.
Oh, I love that.
One gives you the lay of the land, sure.
Yeah.
But the other, that's where the real discovery happens, right?
Absolutely. So in teacher A's classroom, that personal connection, that spark of curiosity from the student, it kind of takes a back seat to just getting the right answer.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, now I'm even more curious to see how teacher B handles these everyday classroom curveballs, Yeah. What does that look like in action?
Let's jump to teacher B's class. They're wrapping up an experiment about electrical power, light bulbs, circuits, the whole shebang. Right in the middle of it, a student brings up this classic misconception about electrical current.
We've all been there, holding on to some scientific myth that made perfect sense at the time.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Yeah.
What does teacher B do?
All right, so this is where it gets really interesting. Instead of jumping in with a correction, teacher B just lets the misconception hang in the air for a beat.
Ooh, strategic silence. I can feel the tension in that classroom.
Right, and the transcript even notes the length of the pause. A full 7 seconds.
Which, in a classroom, that's got to feel like an eternity.
Oh, it's an eternity. But in those 7 seconds, teacher B is communicating something so powerful. They're saying, your ideas matter, even if they're not quite there yet. And then they follow up with these really open-ended prompts, you know, can you explain your thinking? Or what led you to that conclusion?
I love that. Not shutting down the conversation, but prying it open even further.
Yes. And this approach, it's not about avoiding right and wrong altogether. Remember that upward climb we talked about, that cumulativeness that teacher B is so good at?
Oh, you're right, that staircase.
This is where it shines. They take those initial ideas, those misconceptions even, and they weave them into a demonstration. Like the transcript actually says, so you notice the light bulb got brighter, let's investigate why that might happen.
Brilliant. So the student's observation, it's not just acknowledged, it becomes the launch pad for even deeper understanding.
Exactly. And that's what makes this so powerful. Think about your own learning journeys for a second. Yeah. What sticks with you more? Being handed a perfectly formed answer, or struggling with a concept and then having that aha moment where it all clicked.
Oh, the aha moments, for sure. They're like those milestones on a hike, You remember the struggle, the climb, but the view from the top, it makes it all worth it.
Precisely. And this research, it gives us this little glimpse into how teachers can create more of those aha moments for their students, not by shying away from those challenges or even those misconceptions.
By leaning into them.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, so this deep dive has already given me so much to think about, both as a learner and, somebody who just loves to nerd out on the science of learning.
Me too. And remember, those communication graphs, those aren't just for researchers, If you're curious about a teacher's style, maybe your own child's teacher, don't be afraid to ask about their approach to discussion and dialogue in the classroom.
That's a fantastic point. A huge thank you to our expert for illuminating this fascinating research.
My pleasure.
And to you, dear listener, we'll leave you with this. How can you cultivate more of those aha moments in your own learning journey? Until next time.